Welcome to the Mastering the Game podcast. I'm your host, Jermaine Harris. You may have been hearing a lot about live service video games in the past few years, so it may surprise you that the games as a service model actually started nearly 20 years ago with the launch of the massively multiplayer online RPG named World of Warcraft back in 2004. Since that game was launched, it required a subscription to play it. However, this isn't the only type of live service game. Games like Marvel's Avengers and Destiny 2 are just a couple examples of recent live service games. Broadly speaking, the games as a service model can include several different things. A clear example of this is the World of Warcraft game that I mentioned earlier. However, services like EA Play or Xbox Game Pass are also providing games as a service. Also, microtransactions are part of the games as a service model. If you've played nearly any major release that came out within the past 5 years, you've probably encountered microtransactions. Most people are usually fine with microtransactions that purely provide cosmetic content. However, when games put useful or important content behind an additional paywall, that's when players become frustrated. The frustration comes from the fact that people just want a complete game when they buy it. If we already bought a game, we shouldn't have to pay extra money just to access its useful features. An infamous example was the Star Wars Battlefront 2 game that came out in 2017, where you have to play the multiplayer mode for about 40 hours just to unlock one hero or villain. More recently, we see franchises like FIFA and NBA 2K that heavily push loot boxes to build your ultimate teams. Personally, I really miss when Call of Duty didn't push battle passes so heavily. I've never purchased one and I don't plan to, but whenever I load up the game, they're really trying to get me to buy this new outfit or whatever it is. If it's your thing, that's cool, but just me personally, I don't really care about that kind of thing. I just want to play the game when I load it up, and I feel like including all of these different microtransactions at every moment kind of commoditizes the game a bit too much for my taste. However, I understand that they make a lot of money, and that's why developers and publishers want to include microtransactions in their games. So, for better or for worse, this is the stage of the video game industry that we're in. There's this big push for increased monetization, which again makes sense because game development companies and publishers are businesses and they need to make money. But I think that if publishers and developers focus on providing the best experience for their players, that'll be a great way to establish trust and a desire for people to actually purchase your games and play them long term. Because if you're constantly pushing to get an extra $5, $10, $20, $100 or whatever it is out of your players every time they log into the game, that gets old really quickly. And it'll be nice to be able to just play the game that I purchased and not have to really think about some extra cosmetics that I don't really care about. I'd hate to see franchises like Call of Duty continue to be dragged through the mud by their own poor decisions. It seems like this push of shark cards and COD points and things like that can really push people away from playing the games. So I hope that companies can find a way to make the monetization more user-friendly instead of just trying to shove it in our face to buy the next thing in the game that I already paid for. Hopefully they can just bring their focus back to making great video games. Let me know in the comments if you're a fan of the video games as a service model. I certainly think it can be a good thing if used properly.